Yo, welcome to this video. This is Jonathan Belcher. We about to be talking about some crazy stuff in this video having to do with the strength of the US dollar. By the end of this video, you're either going to look at America as being the master manipulators of the world, or you're going to look at them as being the geniuses of the world, or both. So this is the presentation for today. Is how did the US dollar become the reserve currency of the world? Once again, my name is Jonathan Belcher, aka Jadis Crete. If you've been watching me for some time now, you know that Jadis Crete is my stage name because I also make hip hop music. Before we get into the presentation at hand today, just a few announcements. Number one, I'm in the process of completing a book right now at the time of you watching this video. And maybe if you're watching this video later on, like in a month or so, the book will most likely be available for sale on Amazon. This book is going to be life-changing. I'm telling you, it's really going to change your mindset. It's going to take your mindset and your vibrational frequency to the next level. Really quick, what I'm going to show you is my recent hip-hop project called Forever Blessed. Make sure to go check that out. Real quick, I'm gonna just show you what it looks like. Hold on one second. This is what it looks like. This is the cover of my last hip hop project that I dropped. It's called Forever Blessed. I just recently also dropped a new single called Nurses and Doctors. Check out those tracks. Let me know what you think. Check out this project. Let me know what you think. I would really appreciate it. And like always, 300 to freedom, baby. 300 to freedom. Without any further ado, let's get into this topic at hand. Let's get into this topic at hand because this is a very important topic. Hopefully by the end of this video, you understand that the past isn't the present, but the past does affect what's going on today. You got people out there in the world that's done some messed up things to people in the past, and people go around doing some real shady shit to people thinking that, oh, it'll pass and I'll just move forward with my life and everything will be okay. No, you got to understand that things that we do in the past does affect the present moment as well as can very much so affect the future. And I hope by the end of this video, you understand that. By the end of this presentation, that's what I really want to set in stone in your mind, is that things that we do in the past will affect our future, will affect our present lifestyle. So you can't go around in the past, you can't go around thinking you're just going to hurt people and no type of karma is going to come back your way, or you can't think that you can do something today and years later it's not going to affect you, especially if it's something crazy, especially if it's something cruel, or if it's something that's just detrimental to other people. For example, so how did the US dollar become the reserve currency of the world? You ever ask yourself that question? Like, you ever ask yourself, how the hell did the dollar become so powerful? How did it become this? How did it become the number one currency in the world? How did it become the currency that every country is using? That's exactly what I'm going to be breaking down in this presentation for you. And we're going to get right into it right now. So in order to understand how the US currency became the strongest currency in the world, we got to go back to World War I. We got to go back to World War I because, like I said, in the past, a lot of decisions were made. That is why today the US currency is the number one currency. So we got to go back to World War I and analyze the reasons why the USD is a global reserve currency today. So going back to World War I, World War I lasted from 1914 to 1918. What's crazy about World War I is that America did not involve themselves into World War I until 1917. I'm going to say that again. World War I started in 1914 and it ended in 1918. America did not get involved in the first war a year prior to it ending. So America got involved in 1917. So while everybody else was fighting, America was just sitting back neutral, just watching everything that was going on. And to me, it was kind of a genius strategy on their part to do this. I don't know how they had the ability to foresee the coming events, but them just sitting back and not getting involved in the World War, the First World War right away, was the genius aspect to what America did, in my opinion. So they didn't get involved until 1917. Prior to World War I, the British pound was the currency of the world until the USD surpassed it. So the British pound was the global currency before America said, nah, forget that, bump that. We got the powerful money, you know? How did the USD surpass the GBP? The pound was greatly weakened during World War I when the UK had to borrow lots of money to support their war efforts, which significantly increased their own debt. You already know war costs money. War ain't cheap. It ain't cheap to go to war because you need supplies, you need goods, right? You got this military, you got to keep them armed. So the pound, the UK was spending mad money trying to fight this war. The UK had to borrow so much money that they eventually abandoned the gold standard in 1915 so that they could continue to finance the war. So UK started to go into crazy debt to the point where they didn't have the tangible gold to back the paper money that they needed. And I'm going to explain the reason why that happened. Over the course of World War I, many countries suspended the gold standard to pay their military expenses with paper money, which devalued their currencies. So in World War I, what we see is a lot of countries start looking at the gold standard and saying, man, this shit is holding us back. We need to spend more money, and we can't have our money linked to this gold standard because it's kind of going to keep us limited as far as how much money we can print and how much money we can spend. So this is where we start seeing countries get rid of the gold backing their money. Guess who the UK and other countries had to start buying weapons and military goods from? Oh, shit. You guessed it. The United States of America. The United States of America. Hold on one second. I got to make sure this thing is still recording. All right, cool. It's still recording. Are we still recording? The United States of America is who these countries had to start buying weapons and military goods from. Remember, America didn't get involved until 1917. That's when America got involved. So, did they foresee something? Did America foresee that, were they looking on the sidelines like, these countries is over here, they fighting, they battling, they punching each other in the face. Eventually, they're going to need more supplies. I'm thinking that from 1914 to 1917, I'm thinking that all America did was focus on stocking up on goods, military goods, war goods, shit like cotton, shit like wheat, stuff that they knew that these warring countries were going to eventually need because the war is going to deplete their goods and deplete their arms and deplete their weapons and deplete the stuff that they need to fight their war. So what I'm thinking is America was, what it looks like to me, is America was sitting back and just watching these countries war. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just watching the countries go back and forth, and they like, during this time, we going to stock up on goods. And if they were doing that, I feel like that was genius. They was playing chess. This was chess, not checkers for America. You know what I'm saying? Like, they was playing chess. How America started stocking up on gold. Now, at this time, remember, most of the foreign countries started getting rid of the gold standard. However, the U.S. their currency was still backed by gold. So during World War I, many nations started sending America their gold in exchange for military goods. Britain abandoned the gold standard in 1931, which decimated the bank accounts of international merchants who traded in pounds. This is how the GBP became weaker than the dollar, because of the situation right here. Essentially, the USA were participants of both world wars while simultaneously being merchants of the war. So to me, this was genius right here. I don't know if you could call this master manipulation, although I know that the US are master manipulators. But in this situation, for them to surpass the GBP strength, I think this was genius, because what they did was they sat back, they stocked up on goods, and by the time they did start to participate in the war, they had so much goods that at the same time of them being a part of the war, they're supplying these countries with things that they need. Well, mainly, especially their allies. You know what I'm saying? So their allies in World War I and World War II were buying mad shit from the US, and what they were using to buy these goods was gold. So if they're using all this gold to buy from the US is stocking up their gold. Their gold is going higher and higher and higher and higher because they selling all this shit. Excuse me, let me take a sip of juice. So that's how America started stocking up on gold. If you're liking what you're learning in this video so far, make sure to like this video, drop a comment on this video. Do you think that America were just geniuses, or do you think that they're master manipulators? What is your opinion on this discussion? What do you think? Do you think the America was smart in sitting back and not get involved in World War I until 1917? Or do you think it was just this was all an accident where America got lucky and no pun intended, but struck gold, so to speak? Drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. I would love to hear your insight. Also, make sure to share this video and subscribe, because when you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, it really helps the algorithms push my videos out there to be seen, and it really helps people to come to my videos and watch it. So I would appreciate likes, comments, and subscribers. I appreciate that. So how did the US currency also benefit from World War II? So they didn't just benefit from World War I. America also double benefited from World War II in terms of the strength of their currency. So during World War I, which started in 1939 and ended in 1945, many countries involved spent so much money funding the war that they had to get rid of the gold standard backing their paper money. But guess who was supplying most of the weapons and war materials in exchange for more tangible gold from other countries? Once again, in World War II, you guessed it, the United States of America once again was collecting more gold once again in World War II. America didn't get involved in World War II. They got involved in World War II a lot earlier than World War I, but they didn't get involved until Japan did the attack at Pearl Harbor. So this meant that throughout World War I and World War II, America was accumulating so much gold from foreign countries that they now owned 2/3 of the world's gold supply. Imagine that. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. From World War I and World War II, America owned basically 75%, damn near 75% of the world's gold supply. That's crazy. The US gold reserves skyrocketed from just 2,000 tons in 1910 to almost 20,000 tons in 1940. So you see, in just 30 years, they 10 times the amount of gold that they had. And most of this gold that they were stocking up on came from the world wars. So this is the reason why these wars greatly benefited America. After World War II, the dollar really started to dominate the world trade system. It retained its strength while the currency of other countries were weakened due to the world wars. So America's just chilling now. They're like, yo, we got mad gold. We sitting on mad gold. We sitting on mad paper. And they watching all these other countries basically become more and more poor every single day as a result of the war. That's what was happening. And this is a chart showing and displaying the change in the amount of golds. You can see from 1890 to 1910. It's showing the amount of tons. The picture got cut off, but on the left, on this axis, it shows you the amount of tons. And you can see up here in 1949, America's gold reserves went to 21,828 tons. So you could see how the amount of gold skyrocketed over the course of the wars. World War I and World War II. This is why you got to have a lot of respect for veterans. This is why you got to have a lot of respect for people who've fought in wars for the country, because they risking their lives every single day to benefit the entire country. And this was a prime example of that. Millions of people, not just thousands of people, millions of people died from World War I and World War II. And it makes you wonder, did America inject themselves and get involved in this war because they saw that the benefit they would be reaping? Did they see that they would become the currency on top if they did involve themselves in this war? It makes you wonder, did they have the foresight to know that one day their currency would surpass the GBP and become the number one currency of the world? It makes you wonder. So you can see how both wars greatly benefited America. So what happens next is, this changed the game right here. This, what I'm about to talk to you about, this is what really changed the game and really put America on top. And I think in this part right here is where the manipulation kind of comes in, because after the wars, the other countries were so depleted and America was sitting there like the big fat cat, just chilling in the corner, eating lovely, eating good, while all these other countries were depleted. They were beat up. They were broke, essentially, for lack of a better term. And America decides to have a meeting with 44 countries in New Hampshire, New York. And the Bretton Woods Agreement in New Hampshire, New York was signed, right? So what was the Bretton Woods Conference? So in 1944, 44 countries had a meeting called the Bretton Woods Conference, where these 44 countries agreed to peg their currency to the US dollar. This is crucial. This was a crucial event in shaping why the US dollar is the global currency today. This is a crucial reason why. So all these 44 countries agreed to peg their currency to the US dollar, while the US dollar was the only currency still pegged to gold. And it's changed the game. So in other words, all the other countries, these 44 countries, currency became dependent on the US dollar, while the US dollar was still backed by gold, the only currency still backed by gold. So essentially, this agreement basically made the US dollar become the gold, if you will. The US dollar was still backed by gold at this time. And this is huge, because this agreement, see, America had power of the pen. They've been having the foresight to see shit and manipulate through the power of the pen, through having people sign shit. And they knew that getting these countries to sign this agreement will keep these countries' currency completely dependent on the American currency. This 1944 conference, which was held in New Hampshire, New York, was significant in making the US currency the default currency, because now the value of all other currencies were dependent on the value of the dollar. Are y'all hearing me? Are y'all hearing me right now? Drop a comment if you hear me right now, because this is crazy. Now the value of all the other currencies were dependent on the value of the dollar, because they were pegged to the dollar, and the dollar was the only currency still backed by gold. While everybody else was no longer backed by gold, they were backed by the US currency now. That's crazy. When you really think about that shit, that's crazy. This is what you call the power of the pen, and being able to see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now. This is what you call that. Here's some pictures of that actual Western Conference in New Hampshire. Here's actual pictures. You can see the names of the countries right here and the people there to represent it. And of course, America sitting in the middle, getting rich like some big fat cats. You can see the United Kingdom right here, Yugoslavia right here. You can see this is all at the Western Conference. All these countries, they peg their currency to the US dollar. Hey, that's some crazy ass shit, man. That's some crazy ass shit. I don't know what the thing was. America knew that these other countries were broke. They knew that these other countries were so depleted from the war. They kind of knew that they were needed at this point. America's like, yo, we got all this gold. You might as well peg your currency to ours because you ain't got shit. Y'all broke. So that's what happened. How else did the U.S. solidify the U.S. currency as the global currency? This was another major move that America made as well. The Saudis permitted the U.S. to start digging for oil in the Middle East, and miraculously, they hit a jackpot, finding the largest oil reserves in the world. The reason why I say miraculously in quotations is because out of all the places in the world, y'all chose that exact area in Saudi Arabia to fucking dig, to find gold, to find oil. How you knew oil was going to be there? At this time, oil was becoming the main commodity, or I should say it was the main commodity at this time. Oil at this time basically damn near became more valuable than gold. And America ain't give a fuck at this point because their money was the only money backed by gold. So they didn't care, and they already pegged the money. You know, they already had other currencies money pegged to theirs. So what made America just miraculously go to Saudi Arabia and say, oh, we're going to start digging here? How did y'all know? How did they know that there was oil there? Somebody had to have told them. They had to have some type of intel. You ain't going to just, this big ass world, you ain't going to just pick one fucking dot to go start digging oil. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody lying because they acted like they ain't know what they was looking for. Somebody lying. Somebody getting some intel. Somebody getting some underhanded information. Be quiet. Don't let them know about the oil. The United States discovered oil in the Middle East in large quantities in Bahrain in 1932. This discovery marked the beginning of oil exploration and production in the region by American companies. Okay, so they've been found oil, right? But this will set the premise for the relationship between the United States and the Middle East going forward. Saudi's growing relationship with America really made a lot of other Middle Eastern countries upset because they didn't like that Saudi Arabia was allowing America to set up shop with military bases and businesses in the Middle East. Why you think America was over there? For their health? No. The only reason America's all up and down the Middle East, or was up and down the Middle East even today, is because they got oil, because the money they saw available, the resources. America wouldn't be over there for no other reason. But you got to understand, these areas are highly religious areas. These areas are highly religious areas with Islamic people, you know, Muslims. So a lot of the people in this area was mad at Saudi Arabia because they were like, yo, how you letting these fucking secular ass Americans come over here and just run all through your shit? You know what I'm saying? That's what the Middle East, they was looking at Saudi Arabia like, yo, you crazy. You allowing these cats to come up here and do that? So that's what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Hold on one second. Let me get some juice. My throat's kind of dry. Pause that. Pause. But yeah, so America's all up in the Middle East now because they see they could get some oil. So they over there making agreements, building a relationship with the Middle East, you know, talking business, and all that stuff is going on. The Saudi Arabian leaders allowed Americans to come in, set up military bases, small cities, and even start running their oil business. The Saudi leader allowed this because they were, of course, getting lots of money. I think this is where the term Arab money comes from oil production and sales. You know the song, we getting Arab money. We getting Arab money. Y'all know that song, right? So I think that's where this term comes from because, once Saudi Arabia was in bed with America with this oil shit, they started to get money from oil production and sales, but also because the U.S. promised to protect them from attack from other countries. So America's like, look, yo, y'all got oil. We got the resources to be able to dig the oil. We'll make a deal with you where we make a bulk of the money from the oil. We give y'all kickback. We'll give y'all Saudi Arabians leaders a lot of money out of the productions we make. But also, what we're also going to do is protect you from other countries trying to invade or bomb you. For example, the Italians was over there dropping bombs on the Saudi Arabians and shit. And America's like, nah, we going to protect Saudi Arabia because we got our business. We got our interest over here in Saudi Arabia. America ain't protecting no people. America ain't protecting no country if they don't have interests within that country. If you just broke and you don't got nothing to offer, America ain't going to really be in bed with you because there's no reason. When you start seeing America protecting countries and protecting certain groups of people, you have to know there's a underlying reason, whether it's talked about or not, of why they're doing it. And in this case, it's because they wanted to protect their business, their oil business interests in the Middle East. That's why they were protecting the Saudi Arabians. It wasn't about liking the Saudi Arabians. It's not about liking the people of Saudi Arabia. It's not about, oh, we love the Muslims. We love Islamic people. It's not about that at all. So understand who you're dealing with here. So then President Franklin D. Roosevelt, he did something when he became president. He made a deal with Saudi Arabia in 1945 during a meeting with King Abdulaziz, known as the Quincy Agreement. This agreement laid the foundation for the strategic relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia, particularly in terms of oil and security cooperation. So Franklin D. Roosevelt made an agreement with Saudi Arabia, and this is kind of how the relationship between America and the Saudis really started to grow. Since so many countries got used to making transactions in dollars over the course of 4 decades, it significantly strengthened the value and trust in the dollar. So, the world wars had happened, and now, the conference just happened, the Bretton Woods conference happened, and now all of these countries were used to using dollars. All of these countries started to stock up on dollars in their banks because, remember, now the dollar was like the gold. Now it's almost like the dollar became the standard for these other currencies, for these other countries' currency. This strength persisted even after 1971, when the US dollar was no longer backed by gold. So in between this time of 1945 and 1971, America's setting up shop in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East. They really setting up shop, really getting in good with as far as the oil businesses and protecting over there and just getting more and more money. Because now, at this point, by the time the 70s hit, it's been a long time now since the other countries' currency's been pegged to the dollar. So they eating lovely now. Things are really, really going America's way. They're really, really solidifying their global currency, their currency as the global currency. Moving along. Make sure to go listen to that Forever Blessed album, baby. Make sure to go listen to that Nurses and Doctors single that I recently dropped, baby. 300 to Freedom. Make sure to drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. If you have any questions, if you have any topics that you want me to discuss, drop a comment below. I would love to hear from you. So let's go next to the next president. Well, I should say a couple presidents later, right? This was in the 1970s now. So this is a couple presidents later. But what happened is President Richard Nixon, he decides to get rid of the gold standard in the U.S., which I think is funny, right? Because initially the U.S. were the last company to be backed by gold. And then even they got put in a position where they no longer wanted the backing of the gold standard, right? Because They didn't care at this point. At this point, they were getting so much money because of the deal they signed years prior. So before 1971, you couldn't just print money infinitely in the US. You needed to have an equal amount of gold to back the money that was being printed. This was known as the gold standard. So you couldn't just print mad money like what they're doing today on demand. Now they could just print money because they don't have a gold standard. They don't have that governor. In 1971, President Richard Nixon and the US cut ties from the gold standard because they could no longer keep up with the demand of gold to match paper money. The gold standard was kind of like a governor of paper money, where you couldn't just continue to increase the national debt at will by printing more and more money. So the US just got rid of it to increase economic flexibility. We won't be needing that anymore. Get rid of the gold standard. Why do we need that anymore? I mean, for after all these other countries, their currency is already pegged to us and there's nothing they can do about it. We became the gold. So we don't need gold backing us. We damn sure don't need gold backing us anymore. Who the fuck cares, right? That's where they was at with it. The national debt is currently at today, because of all the printing of money that's been happening, especially, the national debt is currently over $28 trillion for the US today. Instead, the US adopted a fiat currency system. So in the 70s, the US adopted a fiat currency system. What is a fiat currency system? In this system, the value of the currency is not directly linked to any physical commodity like gold. So there's nothing backing the dollar anymore. There's no tangible commodity backing the value of the dollar. But instead, its value is determined by the government's decree, or fiat, and the market forces of supply and demand. In essence, this means that the money has no true value, and it's all based on belief. It's all based on the belief that paper money is valuable. So it's all an illusion. It's all bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It's all bullshit. And everywhere you look, America is taxing their citizens. Everywhere you look, America is raising prices on this, raising prices on that. They're doing a lot of shit that's causing the people of America to have to pay more and more money. If you think about it, a lot of this is because of the result of this. Because you continue to print money, as a result of you printing the money, inflation increases. When inflation increases, the price of goods go up because the money is becoming less and less valuable. So because of this is why we see the value of money go down. I remember asking my mom, I said, what was the rent like back when you were growing up? Like when you got your first apartment, how much was the rent? She told me, she said, my rent was $300 a month. $300 a month for a 2-bedroom, if I'm not mistaken, at that time was what my mom was paying. In New York, the most expensive state in America, arguably. $300 a month is what the rent was. You can't even find a closet nowhere. You can't even find a closet in New York for $300 a month. You can't even find a closet for $300 a month in New York. So imagine, $300 was what the rent was. Today, you're not finding that nowhere near. The rent be like $2,000, $3,000, sometimes as crazy as $4,000 a month, depending on where you at in New York. It's ridiculous. So you want to know why over time rent just continues to go up? Why over time the price of goods just continue to go up? It's because of the printing of the money. It's because of inflation. And all America continues to do is suck their people dry for more and more and more and more and more and more and more. So the same way how they out there in other countries kind of pimping people out, America pimps out their own people to keep the rich getting richer, to keep the rich on top and keep their foot on top of the necks of the poor. That's what they do. Because they do everything in lieu of interest. What do they want? So they need more money to give to Israel over there? They pimp out the people more. They do whatever they need to do to get more funding to do it. But if you continue to print money, what happens as a result is inflation happens. And the price of milk, the price of bread, the price of eggs, this is why we see these things start to go up. This is why we see you go to the supermarket now, and what you used to be able to stock your cart up. I mean, you used to be able to really stock your cart up crazy to the top. Probably even get another cart for $100. Now, $100, shit, you might just be able to fill up a basket. So imagine you used to be able to fill up your whole entire shopping cart with $100. Now you may be able to fill up a basket with $100. The money ain't going nowhere near as far as it used to. So when you at your 9-to-5 job and they say, oh, we've given you a raise, they ain't really giving you no raise because the money ain't worth as much. So each dollar is worth less than what it used to be worth. So yeah, on paper, it says a higher number. You're making this much per hour, but really and truly, the bills are going higher than what you're being paid, even with the raise, even with your salary being increased. So this is where I see the problem with America and where I say, yo, y'all are a bunch of master manipulators because y'all sucking y'all people dry, y'all citizens dry for the sake of getting richer and richer on the backs of y'all citizens. So really and truly, the money has no value. There ain't shit backing it. It's like monopoly money. Ain't nothing backing it. Because once these other currencies peg their currency, once these other countries, not currencies, once these other countries peg their currency to the dollar no longer needed a gold standard to back the money, because the other countries already put their currency to the dollar, so it's dependent on it. Let's continue. Let's move forward. So next, SWIFT gets invented, right? SWIFT gets invented. Let me see what I said here. Okay. So no longer have gold. None of these currencies no longer have gold backing them now. So because of this, SWIFT gets invented. At this point, the US and many other countries were no longer backed by gold, and so they needed a new system which would allow them to continue to trade goods on a global level. But the US didn't care that even their money was no longer backed by gold, because all of the other currencies were pegged to the dollar anyway, from the Bretton Woods Agreement, the Bretton Woods Conference, right? So they didn't care anyway. They didn't give a fuck. It was like, yo, these countries kind of got to do what we say. In 1973, SWIFT was created to address the need for a standardized and secure messaging system for financial transactions on an international scale. SWIFT stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Before SWIFT, there were various ad hoc communication methods between banks, which were often slow, inefficient, and susceptible to errors and fraud. SWIFT aimed to streamline this process by providing a standardized messaging platform that would ensure secure and reliable communication between financial institutions across borders. So SWIFT was put in place to allow all countries to continue to trade internationally, exporting, importing goods. That's why SWIFT was invented. Facilitating smoother and more efficient international financial transactions. So they say, right? So they came up with this thing called SWIFT, which two other institutions were created from SWIFT, which I'll go into in a later video. Not necessarily going to talk about that in this video, because really this video is just talking about how the dollar became the global currency. How the fuck did we get here? How did we get to the point where the dollar trumps all other currencies? This is how it happened. These events right here. America having power of the pen. America giving up their goods for gold back in the World War era, right? This is how it all, because of these events, because of, basically countries signing over that their currency should be pegged to the US dollar. This is why the ripple effect started. Today, foreign banks keep more US dollars on hand than any other currency. Today, foreign banks keep more US dollars on hand than any other currency. This is why the American dollars is the global currency. Now it's established so much trust. All investors have it in their banks. all countries are stocking up on the US dollars because it's become the new gold. It's the new gold, remember? They got rid of the gold, so the only thing back in their money is the US dollar, which is why the US dollar is the global reserve currency. This is the reason why. This is why. All these countries, they got US dollars in reserves. Just like before they would have gold in reserves, now they have US dollars in reserves, these other countries. The US dollar gains even more strength than it already had. So this is where, they just start really manipulating shit, and America just really start doing shit that it becomes manipulative at this point, and these countries, they kind of have to sign because America starts threatening these countries. America starts bullying these countries essentially because now they have all the power to do it. You the only kid on the block with your money is the only money that's worth anything. You gotta realize that these other countries gotta fall in line. Well, to some degree, you got countries that are getting stronger and stronger every single day, and they ain't trying to hear that shit, right? You got other countries that are trying to, create other systems, trying to establish another currency outside of the US. But I'll talk about that in a future video, not in this video, right? Not in this video. In a future video, we'll talk about what other countries are doing to escape from the US currency bondage. So to add power to the dollar even more, in 1974, the US made an agreement with Saudi Arabia called the petrodollar system. And after they made this agreement with Saudi Arabia, many other Middle Eastern countries started to follow in the footsteps of Saudi Arabia. Because now remember, the dollar's on top now. The dollar's killing it. It's stronger than the pound. It's the strongest global currency at this point, basically, right? So this is where the manipulation comes in, where they make this agreement with Saudi Arabia. Remember, they were already in bed with Saudi Arabia for years already at this point. Now this is just further solidifying the strength of the US dollar. So the petrodollar system agreement made it where oil exporting countries agreed to price their oil exclusively in US dollars and to invest their excess oil profits in US financial assets. And if you ask me, this is what monopolization is. They monopolized the oil industry at a point where the oil was like the hottest commodity. Do you get that? So basically, America was using the fact that their dollar was extremely strong and the fact that oil was the number one commodity to make agreements to monopolize the oil industry. This is what America was doing. This is crazy. It's some crazy shit when you think about it. So this is manipulation at its finest right here, because what this agreement made it is so that all these Middle Eastern countries that had a lot of oil, or any countries that had a lot of oil, they had to now sell their oil in US dollars, which means other countries had to buy in US dollars, which means it would create the need and the demand for more US dollars. So you understand this is a domino effect. This is what America did to pimp out the system. This is what they did to monopolize and make the US dollar the global currency. So don't be telling me, oh, the past don't matter. The past don't affect the future. Yes, it does, because these agreements were signed mad long ago. I'm not saying that you can't change your future. I'm not saying that you can create a better tomorrow, that you can't create a better tomorrow. But if you want to create a better tomorrow, you got to change from today. You got to make better decisions from today in order for the future to look brighter. But don't think that something you did 10, 20 years ago can't come back today to haunt you. You go around doing some fucked up shit to people 10, 20 years ago, somebody might still be mad at you. Somebody might still be angry with you. Somebody still might be locked into your currency, like what we see here. I mean, come on. Check out all the links below in the description of this video if you want to get connected with me. If you want to learn how to build a brand on the internet. If you want to get access to my book, which may or may not be available right now. If you want to be able to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, all of that stuff, all the links are in the description below. So This system created a constant demand for US dollars in global markets and helped solidify the US dollar's position as the world's reserve currency. Remember Gaddafi? In the last video I did, I spoke about Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. Remember him? They took him out in 2011. This is what he was fighting against. This is what Gaddafi didn't like. This is what Gaddafi looked at and he was like, nah, if we peg our currency to the American dollar, if we only sell our oil that we have in Libya in US dollars, all that's going to do is make the US currency more stronger. So in order to combat that, what Gaddafi did was he was establishing his own currency called the gold dinar, and he was going to have all the African countries join in on it so that all the oil that Africa has, they could only sell it in the gold dinar. So this, remember Gaddafi, he was the one trying to fight against this. So people's like, oh, why was Gaddafi doing that? Why was America painting him out as a dictator, as a demonic entity? Well, this is the reason why. It's because they wanted to get his ass off the map so that they can continue to make these agreements with these countries that had all the oil. I mean, yo, it don't take a rocket scientist to see what's going on. If you make these connections, you can see what happened in history and why America did what they did. Gaddafi was like one of the few who was fighting against this because he saw this is straight up monopolization. They're straight up manipulating the whole game. They straight up making it to where there's no way you can fight against the strength of the US dollar. That's what Gaddafi was doing. There is over 7 trillion of US dollars, 7 trillion. There's over $7 trillion being held by other countries around the world. The US dollar is the most held currency in the world, and the United States of America used their leverage to make agreements which allowed the currency to become even more powerful. So agreements like this is why the American dollar is the global currency. You got to see what's going on. When you peep what's going on, you don't got to ask what's going on because you could see the events. You could go back in history, see what deals were signed. You could see what wars were fought. You can see when did countries get rid of the gold standard? When did America get rid of the gold standard? And it starts to make sense. You start to see the whole picture and the whole story. Make sure to drop a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel for more presentations like this. Class is in session, baby. Class is in session. Those damn Americans. And don't get me wrong, I live in America, but I see a lot of the BS that America does. Not only to us as citizens, but also I see a lot of the BS that they do on an international level. Now, some of it I will say is very genius. Some of it is very smart. But then it gets to a certain point to where it becomes just outright manipulation and abuse of other people's resources and rights. The U.S. currency deal of a lifetime. So the fact that the U.S. can just print more money on demand kind of works in their favor in regards to keeping the value of other currencies in check. Because remember, the other currencies are pegged to the dollar. So it don't matter if we continue to print our shit because our money got the most value, right? Although printing more money means that the value of the dollar goes down and causes the increase of inflation, it also means that there's more US dollars out there in the world. So the more US dollars that America puts out there in the world, the more US dollars these foreign banks have in storage, the more US dollar reserves that they have. You see how that works in their favor either way. As a result, all of the US dollars that foreign countries have in reserves simultaneously becomes less valuable. So in other words, the US currency controls the whole board. It controls the whole game. They've monopolized the whole system. They monopolize the whole system. If I can be a country that just makes one decision economically and it either positively or negatively affects all of these other 44 countries, then essentially I control the world economically. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is what's going on. The U.S. currency is strongest when the U.S. economy is healthy and when the global economy is at its weakest. This explains why citizens in America and other countries can be making less and less money due to inflation while the U.S. currency continues to retain its strength. Whether you going poor in America or you rich in America, the U.S. currency is still retaining its strength. Of course, there are certain exceptions. For example, in 2008, when the housing market crashed and all those banks were basically about to go fucking bankrupt, that really, really negatively affected the US market, which in turn affected other currencies around the world. But that really, really was the one main time when like the economy of America was threatened and the current US currency was threatened. So the US currency is strongest when the US economy is healthy and when the global economy is at its weakest, both on both ends. This is kind of like a debt cheat code loop that the US has created. Other countries are forced to rely on the USD for stability and trust. Now it's to the point where other countries want the US dollar to basically do good. Because what this means is that no other currency pegged to the US dollar can really become more valuable, more strong, can become stronger than the US dollar because of the way they set up the game. They put all the cards in their favor. The US dollar got the big joker, got the little joker. If we playing spades, they got the big joker, the little joker, the fucking deuce of diamonds, the ace of spade. Go down the whole list. Playing spades are the most powerful cards. America put it all in their own hands. Shout out to y'all who know how to play spades out there. You know what I'm talking about. That's what America did. It's plain as day. Also, if any other country does something that the United States of America doesn't like, they can just cut financial ties with that country and prevent said country from being able to use the SWIFT network to advance their economies. So America could just freeze all the US dollars that you have in your foreign bank at the drop of a hat, the drop of a damn dime. They could just seize that bank, seize all of the US dollars in that bank. Now that country's currency is weak as fuck because they can't do nothing in US dollars no more. Imagine the insane power this gives America. You see what I'm saying? What they do? This is manipulation. And they've done stuff like this. They've cut off other countries like Iran. They've cut off Russia. They've done this in the past. Maybe in another video, I'll speak more about that. But do you think this makes other countries want to try and get away from the dominance of the US currency? And I'll tell you the answer. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Other countries are trying to get away from it because they see they can't really move. They have to rely on the American dollar. They have to depend on it. Other countries, see, this is what Gaddafi didn't want. This is what Gaddafi was fighting against. This is why he was like, nah, we're going to come up with our own currency here in Africa. They have to buy our shit in our African money. And this is going to strengthen our African currency automatically. Gaddafi wasn't trying to do what Saudi Arabia did. In another video, in a future video, what I'm going to talk about is how all of these agreements that America made with the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, how it led to why Osama bin Laden did what he did in 9/11. All of this shit is connected, which is crazy. When you look at the history, Osama bin Laden had some very deep-rooted reasons as to why he hated America. And maybe in my next video, I'll speak about why Osama bin Laden hated America. But all these were some of the reasons is because of, America's involvement in Middle Eastern just for the sake of sucking money out of the countries, for the sake of getting their resources, and a lot of those countries over there, they're very religious and they're looking at Saudi Arabia and they're like, yo, we're supposed to be religious people. Why are you dealing with these fucking colonizers? Why are you dealing with these Americans and allowing them to be up in your pocket? You know what I'm saying? So all of this shit is connected. The strength of the US dollar today. In 2019, 88% of global transactions involved the US dollar, which means damn near all international transactions involved the US currency. In 2022, 59% of all foreign bank reserves were denominated in US dollars. This gives the US power over nearly any country, nation that imports and exports goods to and from anywhere. So, We see the unprecedented power that the US currency has. This is why they're the global currency today. Today, the US is more involved in the Middle East than ever before and can kind of call the shots at will since they have such a heavy military presence there. And they have the most powerful military as well, right? America has damn near taken over the Middle East. Why are they there? For the resources, for the money. That's why they're there. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you enjoyed this presentation, I would appreciate if you dropped a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Let me know your thoughts on this topic, because this is a deep discussion, because this is explaining why the US currency is the most powerful today. It ain't no secret. We can see what's going on. But also, really, as a take-home message is things in the past or things that happen today do affect the future. We can't just think that we could just sit on our ass, not make decisions to change our life day by day, and think that things are going to change in the future. If you don't change today, if you don't make a new decision today that's going to help you in your future, then your future is not going to be positively affected. America is a prime example of that. They've done things, you could call them manipulators, you could call them monopolizers, you could call them colonizers. And they may be all of those things, but they've done things essentially to put themselves in a position of power. They've made decisions in the past to later on put themselves in a position of power. So my question to you is, what are you doing today? What decisions are you making today to put yourself in your future in a position of power? That's the take home from this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.